You're about to stop guessing why your garden looks beautiful in April and dead by July. In the next 10 minutes, you'll learn the one soil-building sequence that turns inconsistent harvests into a garden that actually gets stronger as the season goes on, not weaker. This works in Southern California heat, and it works even if you've never tested your soil or composted a single banana peel. Here's what's been happening. You plant with excitement. Maybe tomatoes, peppers, squash, whatever caught your eye at the nursery. The first few weeks look promising. You're watering, you're feeding, you're doing everything the internet told you to do. Then, somewhere around mid-season, things start to fall apart. The leaves yellow, growth slows down, fruit production drops off or stops entirely. Just go, and you're standing there with a hose in your hand thinking, "What did I do wrong?" The worst part isn't even the dying plants. It's that you can't figure out the pattern. It feels random. One year the tomatoes thrive, the next year they collapse. You're working harder every season, but the results don't match the effort.
Before we get started, be sure to check out the plants, tools, and products featured in this video. Everything you need is linked right in the description below.
I've been growing vegetables in Southern California for 20 years. And I've tested over 40 tomato varieties in extreme heat. I've had those same mid-season crashes. I've spent entire summers troubleshooting plants that should have worked but didn't. What I finally figured out, and what I'm going to walk you through today, changed everything. And here's the advice you've probably heard 100 times. Pick the vegetables you want to eat, buy good transplants or seeds, plant them in decent soil, and keep them fed and watered. That's the standard recipe. Start with the plant, then build the system around it. Here's what I actually found after 2 decades of testing. That approach has it backwards. If you start with the plant, you're gambling. You're hoping your soil happens to match what that plant needs. You're reacting to problems after they show up. But if you start with the soil, if you build a living, balanced soil ecosystem first, the soil tells you what it's ready to grow. And, more importantly, it keeps those plants healthy when the heat hits, when the water schedule isn't perfect, when life gets in the way. The gardens that make it through July without falling apart aren't the ones with the best varieties. They're the ones with the best soil. And soil isn't something you buy in a bag and forget about. It's something you build, season by season, and it gets better the longer you work with it. There's a specific moment in this process. It happens about 6 weeks after you start, where you'll see something in your soil that most gardeners never notice. I'll show you exactly what to look for, and once you see it, you'll understand why your old garden kept crashing. Let me walk you through how to build soil that actually supports plants through a full season, not just the first month. Step 1. Stop planting for 6 weeks. I know that sounds extreme, but here's why it matters. If your soil is depleted, compacted, or biologically dead, then adding plants to it right now just sets those plants up to struggle. They'll grow on whatever nutrients are immediately available, then hit a wall when those nutrients run out. Instead, we're going to spend 6 weeks waking up the soil. Clear your bed. Pull out the old plants, roots and all. Don't till. Tilling destroys soil structure and kills beneficial organisms. Just clear the surface. Step 2. Add 3 inches of compost and let it sit. Not soil, not potting mix, compost. Finished, dark, crumbly compost. Spread it evenly across the bed. Don't mix it in. Just lay it on top like a blanket. Here's what's happening beneath the surface. That compost is an invitation. It's food and habitat for bacteria, fungi, worms, and all the microscopic life that makes soil actually function. In Southern California heat, those organisms move fast. Within 2 weeks, you'll start to see the compost integrating with the native soil below it. The biology is waking up. Now, I know some of you are thinking, I don't have compost. Can I just buy a bag of garden soil and plant in that? You can, but you're skipping the most important part. Bagged soil is sterile. It has nutrients, but it doesn't have life. And life is what keeps your plants fed when the bag nutrients run out. If you don't have compost, buy it. If you can't buy it, start making it now for next season. This step is non-negotiable. Step 3. Water the compost layer twice a week, deeply. You're not watering plants, you're watering soil. The goal here is to keep that compost layer moist enough for microbial activity, but not so wet that it goes anaerobic and starts to smell. Twice a week, soak it. Just let the water penetrate 6 to 8 inches down, then leave it alone. This is where a lot of gardeners panic. They think, it's hot, I should water every day. But daily watering at this stage just waterlogs the compost and slows down the biology. Trust the process. The organisms working in that compost need oxygen as much as they need moisture. Here's a question for you. Have you ever opened up your soil mid-season and found it bone dry 2 inches down, even though you've been watering daily? Drop a comment and let me know, because that's exactly the problem we're solving here. Step 4. At the 3-week mark, scratch the surface. Take a hand rake or a cultivator and lightly scratch the top inch of the compost layer. You're not tilling. You're just breaking up any crust and mixing a tiny bit of air in. When you do this, look closely. You should start to see something. Small white threads. Those are fungal hyphae. Fungi are the delivery system for nutrients in healthy soil. They connect plant roots to minerals that the plants can't access on their own. If you see those white threads, your soil is coming alive. If you don't see them yet, don't worry. Keep watering, they'll show up. Step 5. At the 6-week mark, add 1 more inch of compost. This is the top dress. This layer is insurance. By now, your original 3 inches of compost has integrated with the soil below. It's active. It's alive. The 2nd inch gives that biology more food to work with once you add plants. Spread it evenly, water it in, and now, finally, you're ready to plant. Step 6. Plant transplants, not seeds, for your first season with new soil. Seeds are incredible. Justice. But they need consistent conditions to germinate. Transplants give you a head start, and more importantly, they let you see results faster. When you plant, dig a hole just deep enough for the root ball. Don't add fertilizer to the hole. The soil is already feeding itself now. Place the transplant, firm it in gently, and water it once at the base. Here's the difference you're going to notice immediately. These plants won't explode with growth in the first 2 weeks the way they do with synthetic fertilizer. They'll grow steadily. The roots will spread wide and deep because they're following the fungal networks in the soil. And when the heat hits in June and July, these plants won't crash. They'll keep producing because the soil is keeping them fed. Step 7. Mulch with 2 inches of straw or shredded leaves. This is the final layer. Mulch does 3 things. It keeps the soil cool, it holds moisture, and as it breaks down, it adds more organic matter to the system. Don't skip this. In Southern California, bare soil in July is a death sentence. Mulch is what keeps the biology alive when it's 95 degrees outside. One more thing I want to address because I used to believe this too. You might be thinking, this sounds like a lot of compost. Can I just use less and add fertilizer instead? You can, and you'll get short-term results. But fertilizer feeds the plant. Compost feeds the soil. And soil that's fed keeps working season after season. Fertilizer runs out. Soil compounds. That's the difference. Remember that old advice? Pick your plants first, then figure out the soil? Here's why it never worked long-term. Plants are the output. Soil is the engine. When you start with the plant, you're trying to force the engine to run on whatever fuel happens to be in the tank. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You never know until mid-season when things fall apart. But when you build the soil first, you're installing a reliable engine. The plants you put in aren't gambling anymore. They're growing in a system that's designed to support them from day one to harvest. That's why your neighbor's tomatoes look great in April and yours look great in August. Now, if you try this and something doesn't go perfectly, here's what you need to know. Soil building is forgiving. Let's say you plant too early, say at 4 weeks instead of 6. Your plants will still grow, they just won't have the full biological support system in place yet. You'll notice slower root development, and you might need to supplement with compost tea or a light organic fertilizer mid-season. That's fine. You're still ahead of where you were before. Or let's say you skip the mulch. Your soil will dry out faster and you'll need to water more often, but the compost layer below is still working. You can always add mulch later. The point is, this method has built-in forgiveness. You're not walking a tightrope. You're building something that gets better over time, even if you stumble. Once your soil is alive and your first crops are growing strong, the next question you're going to have is this: how do I keep this going season after season without starting over every time? I've got a video that walks you through the exact crop rotation and compost cycling system I use to build on this foundation year after year. It's designed for gardeners who want to stop rebuilding and start compounding. I'll link it right up here. You're not starting too late. You're starting right now with the one thing that actually matters. Let's grow something that lasts.